They tried to silence me because I was telling the truth. Because what I'm about to reveal isn't harmless, it's disruptive. Not to you, but to the illusion, to the emotional web women weave to keep the upper hand. When a man finally hears this and allows it to sink in, something inside him shifts. It doesn't turn to bitterness, it sharpens into awareness. And from that moment, nothing looks the same. You start seeing the patterns you once overlooked. The long pauses in her texts that seemed mysterious now read like strategy. The silence that once drew you in now feels like bait. You stop reacting to her mood swings like they're natural disasters. You stop gasping for her validation as if it were air. And when that power evaporates, she feels it. She doesn't show panic on the surface, but beneath, it unsettles her. She begins to adjust in subtle ways. Because she knows you've become unpredictable. That's what unsettles her most. You're no longer chasing every cue. You're not decoding mixed signals. You're not scrambling to prove your worth. You've broken free from the rhythm of her control. And once you detach emotionally, the script she's relied on crumbles. You're not cruel, you're simply distant. Not because you want revenge, but because you see through the act. The games no longer excite you. The bait no longer hooks you. The version of you that begged for clarity, that needed to be chosen, is gone. That man died the moment you understood the unspoken rules women never wanted you to discover. Now you walk with calm, with stillness. You're not cold, you're centered. You no longer explain every thought. You no longer defend every action. You no longer bleed your heart into long midnight texts. You've discovered the greatest masculine power, silence. Not silence as punishment, but silence as protection. You're not distant because you don't care. You're silent because you refuse to waste energy on someone who was never truly listening. And that silence, it speaks louder than anything you could say. It isn't emptiness. It's strength. It's presence. She feels it when you enter a room. She sees it in your eyes, that you are no longer available to be played. You've built a boundary, not to keep love out, but to protect your soul. And she knows she can't cross it anymore. Here's what most men never realize. You don't need perfection to be desired. Not abs. Not clever lines. Not an endless list of achievements. You've been trained to perform, to impress, to posture. But that was never what mattered. What moves her is presence. Not effort. Not pressure. Presence. True presence is unshakable. It doesn't flinch under her gaze. It doesn't scramble for her approval. It doesn't beg to be seen. It's in steady eye contact, in slow, calm breath, in a man who doesn't need to sell himself because he already knows his worth. That's the kind of presence that steadies her storm and lowers her guard. But if your energy is needy, if your value dangles on her reaction, she will feel it, and it will drive her away. Because she doesn't want to carry your insecurity. She wants to rest in your strength. If your core is unstable, if your center is weak, she can't trust it. But when you're grounded, when your energy is rooted, not chasing, everything changes. You barely need to speak. Your stillness becomes magnetic. It pulls her closer. Not because you impressed her, but because she felt you. Because you didn't need her to feel whole. And that to a woman is irresistible. You stop acting. You stop trying to be everything. You become one thing, solid. You no longer fear being misunderstood. You don't beg to be seen. You understand yourself. Your calm sets the frame. Your silence commands respect. You no longer live to earn affection. You live to honor your peace. And here's the hidden key. Women test your energy more than your words. They read your posture, your tone, your presence. If those whisper, "Please accept me," she hears it, and she tests it. Not to be cruel, but to see if you bend. Women can't trust softness without strength. If you fold to avoid conflict, if you shrink just to keep her close, she won't feel safe. She'll feel burdened. And she'll leave, physically or emotionally. Because once respect fades, love cannot survive. You teach people how to treat you by what you tolerate. If you keep accepting disrespect, if you fear being alone so much that you endure chaos, you train her to believe she can cross every line. And when that happens, love isn't love anymore. It's control. But when you walk with purpose, when your standards are clear, when your soul is steady, everything shifts. She stops testing. She starts questioning herself. Your presence demands alignment. She either rises to meet it or she vanishes. Either way, you win. Because the man with boundaries is the man with value. Not in possessions, but in principles. The man who protects his peace is the man no woman can manipulate. So stop over-explaining. Stop begging to be understood. If she keeps crossing lines, it's not confusion. It's control. You don't need more conversations. You need distance. You need silence. Because silence cuts sharper than words. She feels it in the empty space where your energy used to live. You don't disappear to be petty. You step away to preserve your sanity. You don't throw tantrums. You exit with dignity. You don't chase her updates. You don't check her page. You don't block her. You let go. And that lack of reaction, that's what unsettles her most. Because when a man stops needing to be needed, he becomes untouchable. You weren't made to orbit her moods, to beg for affection, to crave her attention. You were built for more. For purpose. For legacy. For a life beyond validation. That's why men with direction are magnetic, because they cannot be controlled. That's the man she obsesses over long after he's gone. You don't pause your growth when she pulls away. You don't stop building when she grows cold. You keep moving forward. Your mission fills the space her inconsistency used to occupy. And that fullness, that self-sufficiency, pulls her closer than words ever could. She doesn't want a man who collapses under pressure. She wants a man she has to rise to meet. Your purpose filters everything. It decides who belongs and who doesn't. And when the wrong one leaves, you don't chase. You evolve. You rebuild for yourself, not to prove her wrong, but to honor what's right for you. You're not constructing a life for her applause. You're building for your name, your future, your legacy. That's where your power begins. The women who ignored you now watch from a distance. But it doesn't matter, because you've outgrown the boy who begged to be seen. You've become the man who recognized his own worth. And that change, it cannot be undone. It's not arrogance. It's embodiment. You don't beg for a place in her world. You create your own. And only the worthy are allowed in. True detachment isn't about being numb. It's about not being enslaved by emotion. You can love and still walk away. You can care and still say no. You can forgive without returning. Because you've stopped chasing outcomes. You've started honoring alignment. That makes you powerful. That makes you rare. And that makes you unforgettable. You're not a backup plan. You're the blueprint. So let her call you distant. Let her say you've changed. Because you have. You've stopped over-explaining. You've stopped pouring yourself into hands that never valued what they held. You now lead with purpose, with clarity, with silence that speaks louder than any declaration of love. And in that silence, you are no longer an option. You are the standard. You are the shift. Subscribe for more.